which I think is very, very important, whether you're in Nigeria, whether you're in Africa. You know, we're all facing a global pandemic, a global problem. And so brand relevance is a hot topic. Like, how do we remain relevant in this world that we find ourselves in? And even without the pandemic, you know, this is a kind of a key question for any business. And it's going to be my ambition throughout the next few moments to really explain to you why I think that brand, you know, it's got a bit of a bad rap. You know, a lot of people think of a brand as a logo and a set of fonts, and they really don't understand the power of brand thinking. And so that's what we're going to be looking at today. It's not a load of pretty pictures. You know, to do brand properly is a really important and really kind of key part of business. So that's what we're going to look at as we go through. I hope that makes sense. And also, I was going to say, it's an absolute honor to be speaking here in Nigeria and in Africa. Thank you for having me. So first of all, I think it's really important to get some definitions down so that we're all looking at this subject from the same lens. You understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a brand. If a brand isn't a logo, a set of fonts and a color, well, what is it? So this is my definition of brand. A brand really is the meaning that people attach to you and your offer. So that definition, it zooms out a little bit. Yeah, sure, we can derive meaning from a logo, a set of fonts and some colors. But really, that isn't what the brand is. The brand is something else. The brand is something bigger. As Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, said, it's what people say about you when you're not in the room. That's what your brand is. It's kind of that gut feeling, your reputation, if you like, that people have, and the meaning that they connect to you in their minds. So that's I think a much more helpful definition when it comes to business, because we do fall into that trap of just thinking it's a logo and that therefore that's what it is, but it isn't. And it's slightly a scary definition for some people, because what it says is, look, the brand, we kind of don't control as business people, right? It's saying that the brand is controlled, and it kind of exists in the hearts and the minds of the beholders of the brand, and the people that are looking at the brand. We kind of can only we can't control it. It's kind of like in their hearts and minds. And unless we can control what they think, we can't really control and own the brand. But what we can do is the game that I'm in, and I know Itua is in, and you know, others around the world in this profession. They're in the kind of game of branding, and this is the attempt, the noble attempt, the brave attempt to begin to manage the meaning that that people have for you and your offer. So that's kind of how I come at this. You know, I'm a solo consultant, and I help leadership teams mainly to kind of get to grips with their brands, to manage them. And I think that branding is not something, though, for, you know, some marketing agencies and some design people, or even for some, you know, some particular business people. Branding is for anybody who's within a business. And to do it properly, you know, you really have to kind of get to grips with its principles. So that's what brand and branding is. And so we could sort of summarize it in this nice little sort of diagram that we've got on screen here, that when you think about this subject, you know, a brand, when it shows up for a customer, it's kind of speaking a certain way. It's almost like a human. It speaks a certain way in its tone, in its messages. It dresses a certain way in the look and feel of its products, in the way that its packaging looks, in the way its website looks, yes, in its fonts and its colors and so on and so forth, but it's kind of got this, it's dressed a certain way. Not only that, it behaves a certain way. You know, we hear things about the way brands are doing things, where they're sourcing their materials from, how they treat employees. These are all behaviors that we might associate to a brand. It might be selling into Africa only, or it might be global, or it might just be in Lagos. You know, these are all behaviors that help us to attach meaning to the brand. But here's the key one from a customer's perspective. And bear in mind, We're talking about what goes on in the customer's mind. Ultimately, a brand does something for us. So, that's the key thing. What is the brand doing? And what problem does it solve? And what, or how does it make us feel? Why do people come to this brand? These are important things. And finally, the brand exists on the basis of a set of beliefs. That one's becoming more and more important, particularly in the West, where I am in terms of young people. They want to know what this brand stands for, if they're going to buy from it or if they're going to join it in some way. Now, here's the thing. All of those things, all of those sort of intangible things, they all come together to create meaning in the audience's mind. And the audience will decide whether or not this brand is right for them, whether they should buy from it or not buy from it. And that's how really branding works. Branding is the attempt to manage all of these things, how the brand speaks and behaves, and what it believes and what it stands for. And so you can see that brand is a very big subject for a business person if they want to look at it fully. It doesn't matter whether it's a B2B brand, business to business, or a B2C, business to consumer brand. If you're trying to attract somebody to the brand, you really need to think about what it is you're attracting them to and why they should think about it in the way you would like them to. You need to influence your internal culture, your products and services, your customer experience, and at the end, the veneer, the logo, the fonts, the marketing communications. These all need to be thought through, not just the logo and the fonts at the end. That isn't just branding, it's the whole thing. So I wanted to mention that as as an introductory sort of remark. I don't know why my screen is not it's not moving. Give me a second. I'm very sorry about this. Just give me 1 second. Oh, there it is. Now it is moving. Hang on. Sorry about this. I don't know why. It just decided not to move. So hopefully we're working now. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if anybody's heard of Abraham Maslow. I'm sure a lot of marketing people have. It's often quoted, probably overly quoted, and it might be an overly simplistic way of looking at things, but it is helpful to illustrate this point. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is kind of like a ladder that you go up. And Maslow's theory was that we have different needs as human beings, and that we only kind of move into the next rung of the ladder, if you like, once the needs of the previous rung have been fulfilled. So, for example, he starts off there on the first, I've kind of put it there in a little pyramid, but on the first one, it's physiological. So this is kind of things like life support, air, food and drink, and that kind of stuff. So once we have the basics that we need to function as humans, that need is fulfilled. The physiological need is fulfilled. Then we look for something else. We look for safety, protection from the elements and security and law and order. Once that's in place, we look for belongingness, which is the idea that we fit into a bigger community, a bigger group. Once we fit into a group and we have that kind of community around us, within the group, we go up to rung 4, which is about esteem, which is where within the group, we like to be known for doing something particularly well, or having a reputation and having respect for one thing. And then once we've got enough of that and we feel that we're well respected, we then go out into the final bit, which is called self-actualization, which is where really we kind of look to grow in quite a selfish way. We don't really care what other people are thinking about us, but we have our own personal pursuits that we enjoy. We go for that. And so we are self-actualized without caring really what other people think. But usually you can only get there if you've got the other rungs of the ladder kind of fulfilled. Now, here's the thing. When COVID has hit, a lot of brands were playing at the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But all society has come crashing down. We don't care about esteem and self-actualization if we are feeling unsafe. And so the key here is to think about, as a brand, as a business person, where was your brand before COVID and where is it now? And that is a tricky thing for us to think about, but that is the truth. Because if we're at the top of the pyramid, and now we're finding it difficult to make sales, the truth is that's because the needs of your customers have changed. We've gone further down. We're looking for safety. You know, in I don't know if it was the same in Nigeria, but in the UK, there were things like toilet roll, which became really scarce. We had food problems and all sorts of things, and I'm sure it's similar situation where you are. So, you know, suddenly we're not worried about you know, at the top of the thing, you know, how we feel or our identity. We're thinking about the safety of our family, the safety of our friends, particularly the elderly members of our families. And so, you know, things have changed. So what happens is our customers are looking at our brands and they're thinking, this is not relevant to me. You know, and this is the case all over the place, whether or not, you know, you're a small business and, you know, and maybe you've sold to elderly people previously. You know, if you can't deliver to their door, you know, a lot of them are afraid to go out. So they don't feel it's relevant to them. Their needs have changed. And so we need to evolve and think about things from that perspective. And I think this has been an issue anyway, but COVID has sort of really highlighted it. Let me show you something. So previously, I think, you know, my country has a rich history of business and doing business, as I'm sure we'll appreciate. And we had the Industrial Revolution, which is where, you know, there was a great leaps forward in technology and creating stuff, factories, if you like. And so we have a rich heritage of businesses producing products in their factories. And then really, you know, the way that we've looked at things as businesses, like, well, okay, we've got these products and we run around the world trying to find people to buy the products that we've created and that we've pushed out of our factories. And so we look for customers. And so that's where, you know, the whole American sort of Mad Men advertising kind of angle has come, very pushy sales sort of strategies, buy my stuff, very consumer driven. And that's how capitalism really grew. The problem is, of course, is that nowadays we consumers have got a lot more power, particularly in relation to the invention of the internet, because we can search things, we can check them out, we can actually look at things before we've even gone into a store or before we make contact with a business. And so that allows us to do two things. One, consumers are much more intelligent, they know a lot more. And two, they don't want to be bothered and pestered and interrupted in what they're doing by whatever it is you're looking to sell. So technology has also been used to screen out advertising that we don't want. You know, I don't know if this was the case with you, but we used to have loads of people phoning from phone books to sell things like Windows, or, you know, as in Windows for your house or things like that. And it really is not, you know, something that's very irritating. You know, being interrupted to buy things all the time. Think of even just TV adverts, you know, was not too long ago and still is a channel for most brands, you know, interrupting people's days with their messages. But then you think of the rise of things like Netflix and binge watching of films. You know, you don't want to be interrupted, you know, so there's movements afoot, there's trends afoot to become less interrupted. So the old model has, I would say, and is gradually fading away. This idea where the business creates a product and pushes it out to anyone that wants to buy it. And by the way, with that model, it was a numbers game. It's kind of like, if we can get our message in front of 1 million people, you know, some of them will buy it. What percentage? 1%. Okay, that's not too bad. So now we have a business model. And that was the way it worked. But that stopped working. It's become harder to make money in that way. And so when we look at the new business, the new way of thinking, let me show you this, because this is how modern brands are really looking at things. A business creates a customer rather than a product first, and then based on the customer needs, the business produces products to help the customer. It's a completely different way. And in fact, we don't even know if it's a customer, a product that's going to be needed for the customer. So I'm going to sort of override that with this idea of an offering, because it might not just be the product. You might need to accompany the product with services. You might want to add, if you're in a B2B environment, training or other support, you know, maintenance.